I just created a change.org petition to cancel the New York Times. Here's why. So David Phillips is the New York Times military reporter. He's not a veteran, but he's done a lot of reporting on veterans, meaning he's making money off a community that he's not a member of. I was connected to Dave Phillips several years ago, and I fed him a tip about employment discrimination against veterans, and specifically in higher education. He said he looked into it, but then didn't do anything with it. I figured that's fine. Some stories that I think are important might not be important on the national stage. I don't know. But then I shared with him information about hate crimes. I shared with him information about a congressional hearing, and each time he just kind of said he'd look into it with no action thereafter. So a couple weeks ago, when I learned about Kamala Harris's record as AG, when she ignored civil rights that were her responsibility as Attorney General in California to implement, I shared it with him not long after I realized that could influence the outcome of the election because it has to do with 23 million soldiers, veterans, and military dependents. And the first time that I realized that maybe Dave Phillips never saw me as a competent human being was in that phone call when he told me how he said something like, "Hey, listen, I'm doing what I can to help military families out, blah, blah, blah." On the one hand, that clued me into maybe he's not military himself. And second, he was defending himself. You'll notice that when I said, you don't have to defend yourself, I think somewhere inside I realized he's defending himself. It didn't set in until later that he has never treated me as a competent source of information that I think that should be newsworthy and credible at a national level. And that assumption, feeling, impulse was confirmed when I texted him the next day, kind of exasperated because it was setting in when I looked up all my old former emails to him that he had just kind of ignored, but also with the phone call. So I took the kid gloves off and I was like, look, I'm sick and tired of a bunch of civilians like Dave Phillips and Leo Shane of the Military Times making money off of the military community, but not treating our concerns and our civil rights and our human dignity as equal to those of others. Instead, Dave Phillips usually reports on civilian savior tropes, how bad they have it. We have to have pity on our veterans. Like, I have long since abandoned and just rejected those tropes when I was made a poster boy for PTSD by Christianity Today magazine in 2015. And so once I had a nose for it, once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. And once I saw it everywhere. And even now with Dave Phillips, like, clearly gaslighting me, you'll see in this text message exchange that he claims he's genuinely concerned. That's a fucking charade. He had zero compassion. That was him trying to cover up his own moral failure by projecting some perceived mental illness onto me. And I double checked. I've never put my medical records online. I haven't disclosed publicly that I can find anywhere that I have any kind of current diagnosis. The CT, the Christianity Today thing, was in 2015, 9 years ago. And so he made that up. He believes on some level that I must have a mental illness if I am this spun up about the fact that 17 of my battle buddies are killing themselves every day. It is civilian bias that allows someone like Dave Phillips and the influence and the power that he wields as a reporter for the New York Times. It is the epitome of bias to basically pull a civilian savior mode in order to shut down military voices. I don't believe you. I've never believed you. I've never looked into your sources, not because they're unreliable, but because you're untrustworthy as a narrator, as a source of news. And that's where the problem lies. So I've started a petition to cancel your New York Times subscription. You can go to change.org and find the petition for improving military representation, unless